If you could have a coach help you identify and focus on what's important, would that accelerate your success? If you answered yes, then this podcast is for you. Each week, my guests, professional coaches, will share one actionable piece of advice to help you level up wherever you need it most. My name is Ippolito, and welcome to the Get Coached podcast. Hi there, and welcome to the, let's call this the intro episode to the Get Coached podcast. So, as I introduced myself already, I'm Chris Ippolito, and I just wanted to record this episode as a precursor to the real episodes where I'm going to be interviewing professional coaches, just to share a little bit about myself, who I am, why I'm doing the podcast, and what's my goal for the podcast. So yeah, I figured I'll just jump right in, solo episode, which I think I'm going to do some of those from time to time, just kind of sharing a little bit of my personal journey of getting coached by a different coach, kind of on what the frequency is going to be is every week, though a lot of these conversations happened in quite tight time frames. But anyways, I digress. So where I live in Edmonton, Alberta, Canada. I've been here for 20 plus years, 25 years, something like that. Love it here. Actually, you get used to the cold weather. You just got to dress appropriately for you, and it's really not that big of a deal. My professional journey. So let me tell you a little bit about my career and how I kind of got to where I am now. I started in the world of personal finances. I would say I started off because prior to that I did like sales jobs, selling vacuum cleaners and door to door and home theater equipment and just a lot of sales jobs. But my first real job was working for a bank here in Canada. So for the Canadians, it's TD Canada Trust, and for Americans, that would be TD Bank. And for anyone abroad outside of North America, you may have heard of either one of those banks. But so started there and worked in the call center, just in telephone banking, and just basically fell in love with personal finances because I realized how little I actually knew, which I feel is a very common, it's a common situation in North America. I don't think a lot of people are educated about personal finances. So when I started learning and realized how little I learned or knew, I fell in love with it and decided I wanted to pursue a career of personal finances so that I could help teach other people how to be better with their money, how to save money, how to invest, all that kind of stuff that I didn't know. And it turned out, yeah, there's a lot of people out there who don't know that stuff. And something that is still near and dear to my heart as far as financial literacy and education, and perhaps will embark on that journey down the road through maybe even the podcast. But yeah, so I ended up moving through the ranks and ultimately became a financial planner, certified financial planner. Did that for about 6 years and ended up leaving because there was really a lack of satisfaction in what I was doing. So I enjoyed helping people reach retirement, which were typically my clients were in their 50s or 60s. They needed to have a certain amount of money or else it wasn't financially, it didn't make financial sense for me to manage their investments. But therein lay a problem for me because I actually got a lot more satisfaction kind of helping and educating the younger crowd, the younger people, because I just felt that if they listened to the advice and took the lessons and applied them, that I would have had a more significant impact on their lives in comparison to the 50 or 60-year-old, just due to time. And but that didn't, the problem was I didn't make a lot of money doing that, because it didn't make sense to manage their finances, because they didn't have enough as far as the time invested in the hourly rate. And I think deep down inside, I always knew I wasn't planning on sticking in the world of personal finances for long. So building a book of business, which is how you get paid for the long term, which would involve taking younger clients, didn't really make sense for me. So eventually came to the realization that I just didn't want to be in the world of personal finances and wealth management anymore, for reasons that I'll perhaps get into in a different episode, almost like a rant episode. But yeah, so I ended up in business development. I was lured away from the world of finances quite easily a couple times to the world of IT services, where I did business development over 4 years, about 5 years, 4.5 years, anyways. And that's where I started a little bit of my journey into marketing. And then when I went back to the banks after one of the IT companies, I went even further down the rabbit hole of marketing. And after the last job that I had, I decided that I wanted to go all in on marketing. So now that's what I do is sales funnels for really anybody who's looking for additional clients. But anyways, again, different episode perhaps. So why am I doing the podcast? So it ties a little bit with my personal journey. So through my working career there and such, there was personal stuff happening, such as meeting my now wife and then having a kid fairly recently. But I went through a pretty kind of dark time, pretty low period of my life in my early to mid 30s. I just dated myself there, but and I was really struggling with just a lot of different things. And the thing that ultimately got me out of that and set me down a different path, thinking more about building my own business and taking care of my family and just basically growing up and maturing. The thing that sent me down the right path was coaching and mentorship from an entrepreneur that I met locally here. And the person that I was mentoring and coaching me there was a lot of life coaching and life mentoring going on. And that really just got my head straight. It matured me quite a bit, just really in the sense of emotional maturity and just really becoming a man, in my opinion. But anyways, so yeah, it's because of that experience, I have still a huge advocate of having a mentor or a coach. I think everybody should have that. There's a lot of coaches out there who you pay for services, which basically all the guests that I'm going to have on the podcast are that type of coach where you pay for services. And that's the most common. And that's the easiest way to really go get the coaching and mentorship that you're looking for. There are, you can get mentoring relationships where there is no the money transaction involved, but that's a little bit of a different type of relationship and not as common. And I would say you would have to work a lot harder for those types of relationships. So professional coaches really is the fastest way to go get that kind of influence and guidance in your life, which is why I'm doing the podcast. I wanted to create a platform for these professional coaches to reach you, my audience, or the audience of entrepreneurs who are aware that they're stuck or are having problems, kind of like I felt, and and are even possibly even solution aware, which I was at the time. I had read books like Rich Dad, Poor Dad, and Tim Ferriss's 4 Hour Work Week and 4 Hour Body, and then started listening to his podcast. And a theme that just came up so often with successful people was having mentors and coaches in their lives. So it just really reinforced the fact that I want to be able to create a platform to help those two parties kind of get together. So the audience, the entrepreneurs who are looking for coaches and are feeling stuck and know a coach is probably the the solution, or could be the solution, but maybe you just haven't found that right coach. Well, I'm going to have a different coach uh, almost every week. I mean, we'll have some times where we'll have reoccurring guests, but that's a lot of different coaches that you're going to get exposed to. And in the meantime, every episode, it's our jobs and our responsibility to add value. So there's always going to be one actionable, tangible piece of advice that we're going to assign as almost like homework. Just like, you know what, just don't the reason for that is consuming and receiving all those inputs are great. Input ultimately will determine your output and can change your method of thinking and all these positive reasons. But the true path to success is once you take action. So that's kind of why my goal is to always have that one actionable piece of advice that you, the audience, can apply and start receiving positive impact in life. So let's see what else. I think I kind of mentioned what my goal is with the podcast, which is to create a platform to help coaches reach a wider audience and to expose the audience to a wider range of coaches while still getting a lot of value. So I guess another thing is I'm really trying to create a community of high achievers who are looking to support each other through the means of coaching and mentorship. I just the impact that I had for me is something I want everybody to experience. And as we build a community and ourselves as individuals mature and develop, then we can always just kind of reach out and connect on Facebook group, which is what I'm ultimately going to be creating. And will, if you're interested, leave a comment below. Actually, by this time, I should probably have had created, and I'll include it in the descriptions in the show notes. But yeah, just looking to create a community of people who felt the same way as I did now 4 years ago, I think it's been, but it's just wanting to help people out, really. So yeah, I think that's it. I wanted to go free form, we'll say, with this podcast. I didn't want to have it too scripted because I want this to come. This is going to sound so corny, but I mean this. I wanted this to come from the heart. I want you guys and anybody who hears this first kind of pilot episode before the very first interview episode comes out to realize that, yeah, this is something that regardless of how many people are listening to, I'm going to be doing anyways, because I'm going to see a ton of value out of it. I just really want to bring a lot of people along for the journey and have them take the same amount of value, and if possibly even more, so that we can all just become better versions of ourselves. So with that, on that note, thanks for subscribing. If you do and want to follow the journey, that's amazing. Looking forward to meeting you and chatting with you in whatever means possible, like the Facebook group will say. But take care, and again, best wishes, best of luck, and I hope you enjoy the journey as much as I do. Thanks for listening to the Get Coached podcast. If you're looking for more information, you can head over to our website, which is getcoachedpodcast.com. You'll find the show notes for this and every other episode there. And if getting actionable advice every week from professional coaches is something you want more of, then make sure to subscribe so you don't miss any future episodes.